enforcing boundaries onto yourself first, we have to start looking internally before we go talking about and pointing blame on anything that's happening externally and outside of us. Hello you guys, welcome back to the channel. It's your girl Gabrielle Ariana, and I'm back with another video. We're gonna be talking about boundaries in this episode of the series, but before we get into it, make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe, and turn on the post notification bell so you're notified every single time I upload. So let's talk about boundaries. Now, in the previous video, I spoke about self-love and self-worth, and just how in your healing journey, that's like the first thing that I personally feel like once you get your head around that and you really digest what, self-worth and self-love is, it pretty much is like the foundation of everything else you learn afterwards or while you're on your healing journey, right? So second is boundaries. So I feel like boundaries are essential to your healing journey because you will learn through your healing journey how very little boundaries you have, one with not just within other people that you are enforcing onto other people, but also boundaries within yourself. So those are the two things that I want to really talk about in this episode, is the boundaries, and how it is essential to enforce boundaries within your relationships, or environment spaces, whether that's work related, through your family, intimate, friendship, etc. Right? It's important to have boundaries because, one, when you know your value, when you know your self-worth, and you are loving on yourself, you have boundaries of basically a line that you're not going to allow someone to cross when it comes to you, that is going to, one, not be in alignment with how much you value yourself, how much you love yourself, and what your self-worth is. One, a lot of people, when they talk about boundaries, they're talking about boundaries as far as enforcing them onto other people, not allowing other people to basically, take advantage of you, disrespect you, do anything, again, that's not in alignment with those three topics, those three things: self-love, self-worth, and your self-value. When you know what your self-worth is, you know how valuable you are as an individual, how valuable you are within relationships, how valuable you are, in just any space that you are in, and you love yourself, right? You're not gonna allow someone to just overstep a boundary or overstep that line, that indivisible line that's there, where from respect, I'm treating you like someone I respect, I'm treating you like someone, who I know have value for myself, for our relationship, and vice versa, versus that other part of the line, that invisible line of not treating you like I know your worth, not treating you with respect, not being appreciative of what you're doing, who you are, how you value yourself, anything of that nature. And so when everyone think about boundaries, we always talk about, okay, we're not going to allow someone to disrespect us, we're not going to allow anyone to do this, we're not going to allow anyone to do that, right? However, I have come to learn that, that's one of the forms of boundaries that you have to enforce. However, I also learned through my healing journey that, I didn't enforce boundaries on other people. No, I didn't, always be vocal of when someone did me wrong, or when someone were maybe disrespectful, intentional or non-intentional, or whenever, I was on the receiving end of something that I know I was not worthy of, and I know that was not in line with my value and how much I love myself, right? But I feel that as people, we often, not even that, we project as people, right? We project onto other people, like, you didn't do this to me, and you didn't do that, and you didn't do this, and da-da-da-da. However, you cannot point the finger at someone else for crossing a line that, one, you didn't enforce, right? But also that you allowed them to cross. So I feel like it goes hand in hand, simultaneous, to enforce boundaries onto other people, but make sure you have boundaries that you are enforcing onto other people, onto yourself. And we as individuals don't think of it in that aspect, in that light of, boundaries. You think I have to enforce these things that this person cannot do when it comes to me, because it's not in alignment with my value, my worth, and how much I love myself. But also, we let people do things, or again, let's take it out of the aspect of what someone else is doing, but versus what we're doing. Now, for myself personally, I wasn't enforcing boundaries within myself because, one, I'm overextending myself to everyone. I'm always making myself readily available. I'm always being you know, a placeholder in people's life, knowing that I'm a placeholder in people's life, right? Knowing that people are not appreciative of what I'm doing, knowing that they're taking it for granted, knowing that people are pretty much walking over me. But again, I can project that onto someone else and say that's because they don't know my value, they don't know my worth, they don't know how much I love myself, and how what they're doing is not in alignment with that. But don't nobody outside of you know those things besides you. And the only way they're going to know those things is, one, if you enforce boundaries onto them, but it also starts with you enforcing boundaries within yourself first. And I would find myself a lot, now that I've reflected on like pretty much every relationship, environment, etc. that I've ever been in, on like, wow, where in this situation or this scenario with this individual, was it really me not having a boundary within my own self versus me having to enforce a boundary onto someone else? So I feel like before you can enforce a boundary on anyone else, you have to have boundaries within yourself. You enforce boundaries within yourself, I feel like it helps you not go against what you would normally not do for anyone else, right? So I feel like, again, we have people that we have a soft spot for. There's people that we care about so dearly and so deeply that we will pretty much do anything for them, even if what that is not in alignment with how much you value yourself, how much you know you're worthy of, and how much you love yourself, because you love that person that much, because you have such a soft spot for them, because you care about them so deeply. But at that point, once you are overextending yourself outside of your own self-worth and outside of your own self-value and how much you love yourself, that is then you not having boundaries within yourself. You can't then say it's because someone else, you're not enforcing boundaries onto other people, or someone else is not respecting your boundaries. Because one, you also have to respect your own boundaries. And oftentimes the boundaries you have that you are enforcing onto someone else will be somewhat the same as the boundaries you have to enforce within yourself, but for each person it's going to be different. It just depends on who you are and what areas of your life, or what areas in general do you find yourself so quick and easy to just overextend, overstep, and just really wear yourself thin to where you have nothing left to give, but you're still giving. Because at that point, it's not about you having boundaries for other people, or about other people not crossing a line with you, or respecting your boundaries, or knowing your worth, knowing your value, and just treating you in a way that is going to be in alignment with how you love yourself and how you value yourself, because you've already laid out the foundation of what you're willing to do, the lengths you're willing to go. So that's all about holding yourself accountable. And then again, accountability is going to be a completely different episode. I'm going to film this one right afterwards. I'm not going to go too much deep about accountability. I want to really enforce boundaries in this episode. However, the main thing that I really want to stress is that when you have boundaries, and when you are on this healing journey, and you are realizing there are so many things that you're healing from, and so much that you've experienced, a lot of the stuff that we're healing from also, again, I also want to make note of, it's not always even, well, none of it really is our fault, but there is a role that we all play in everything that's happening in our own personal lives, right? Whether we are the protagonist or the antagonist, we're on the receiving end, we are the giver, whatever. There's a role that you're still playing because it's in your life, right? And so, yeah, you can be healing from things that you're just getting karmic or through your lineage, or just being passed down to you. However, there's also things that even through those experiences of the stuff that you're healing from, or breaking out of bad, like old habits, old ways of thinking, of just doing certain things a certain way, it all comes from, and the common denominator of it all is going to be yourself. So when it comes to boundaries, I really want to enforce, it's important to have boundaries within others, and to make sure people are not crossing a line when it comes to you that's not in alignment with how much you value yourself, how much you love yourself, how much your worth is. And it's it's disrespectful towards you. But also know that you have to also enforce and have boundaries in place for yourself. If you know there is a person, a thing, a substance, of whatever it is that you like, regardless of how it may affect you in a negative capacity or not, you're like, okay, I will indulge in that. And I know that by me indulging in that, it will affect me in a negative way. However, because I love that thing, or I want it so bad, or I'm going to be willing to do that, right? That is you not having boundaries within yourself. And whatever's on the receiving end, whether it's the substance, the person, the thing, the environment, the whatever, you can't then project that onto them and say, hey, you overstepped my boundaries, or you disrespected me, or you did anything that's not in alignment with my self-love, my self-worth, and my value. Because again, it starts with you. And so I don't want this episode to be super long, because it's just the main point of it all is, when you're on your healing journey, you're going to really learn that boundaries are essential moving forward. That's going to help you have healthier relationships within yourself first, because at the end of the day, this is a self journey. Every journey is different. Your healing journey, they're all different. There's all different types of components and things that you come and pick up along the way. But at the end of the day, this is a self journey. This is your life that you're living. So when you have this newfound enlightenment of just, all of these different tools that you weren't utilizing under your belt that can better help you in a positive way, in a healthier way, through your own relationship within yourself, but also with relationships with other people, and just also being able to give your all to something and not be lacking in the same process. To really understand the importance of, one, enforcing boundaries onto yourself first. We have to start looking internally before we go talking about and pointing blame on anything that's happening externally and outside of us. Even if we are on the receiving end and getting the short end of the stick, there is a role we play when it comes to that, and you have to acknowledge that before you go start pointing fingers. You have to. When you point one finger, there's three pointing right back at you, and there's a reason for that. So internalize what's happening to you, internalize everything around you first, and start decluttering what's happening. And yeah, so just look internally first. It's important to have boundaries. Boundaries is going to be the foundation for your relationships moving forward, and how you move moving forward, how you operate moving forward, how you have those relationships with people, conversations, the things you choose to indulge in, choose not to indulge in. Because boundaries is more than just through relationships with people. It's also still with boundaries, because it's kind of like equating to discipline in a sense, when it comes to personal things, when you're doing it internally, as far as like if you are wanting to, because healing can be all types of things, right? You can be healing from like a weight loss journey, or wanting to lose weight, or healing for whatever, right? People making fun of you for your weight. I'm using this because I'm trying to equate this to something that is nothing to do with a person, but more so to do everything to do with yourself. So if you're in the process of trying to lose weight or get on a healthier lifestyle, but then you're in this environment, you go to like a party, or you go to your friend's house and they have nothing but snacks, unhealthy foods, high calorie foods, high carb foods, and you go and start indulging in that, that's you not having a boundary within yourself, and you're overstepping a boundary that you have there, because it's the boundary of, it's this invisible line from alignment, not in alignment, right? So this is the line, in alignment, not in alignment. So you indulging in unhealthy foods, indulging in alcohol, whatever, substances, that's not going to help you with what your ultimate goal is. That's out of alignment. In alignment is having that boundary. You're making sure you're not overstepping this line of something that's going to affect you negatively, right? So that was a different scenario. However, I wanted to just emphasize that boundaries is not something that is just always attached to people. It's attached to anything outside of yourself that's just not in alignment with the person you are trying to be, you're hoping to become, or you're striving towards. And that's, again, not in alignment with your self-worth, your self-love, and your self-value. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope you guys got something from this message. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next part of the series. Bye!